Going back to Jared Goff and this question of again, is he enough? Can he do enough? I That will be continue to be the thought process for me as I go into the season. While I'm content and understand that this is the guy that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are betting on, and that they have a lot of faith in, and that they've seen a lot of growth in, and we have all seen a lot of growth in, not just them. I do continue to watch him, and I am going to continue to watch him because one, we still have to, deal with the situation of eventually choosing to extend him or not. We have Hendon Hooker waiting in the wings, but the best thing that Jared Goff did last year, in my opinion, was protect the football. And so turnovers, in my opinion, can come in bunches. While he was great at it last year, and I think part of that is from having an offensive line that kept him clean and kept him upright. Another part of that is also having better weapons and having more chemistry. So it's becomes a question of, can Jared continue that trend? Can he continue to, be in rhythm? Can he continue to make these throws and not put the ball in harm's way? And when pressure does come, can he continue to navigate it well? Because while I agree with Dan's assessment that like, yo, Jared's better here than he was in LA, that he's shown growth, he's shown improvement. That's absolutely fair and that's absolutely tangible. And you can actually see that on tape. I still believe that his weaknesses are his weaknesses. And just because they weren't exploited nearly as much last year as they were in 2021 doesn't mean that those things couldn't be exploited this upcoming season. And so for me, the Lions like success and the Lions ability to accomplish their goals very much so hangs on the shoulders of Jared Goff in the sense of A, being healthy, and then B, continuing to protect the football. If Jared falters in any of those two areas, if he's for some reason takes on a bad injury, or if he for some reason is not safe with the football, this season starts to look drastically different than what we all thought it would at the beginning of the year, or how we currently feel right now. Um, and I know that might be safe to say with any quarterback, but I think that's specifically the case when looking at a quarterback that, like, I just think doesn't necessarily. I know there were people that were like at one point in the offseason that were having this conversation of like, yo, is Jared Goff a top 10 quarterback? And it's like, I can't do it yet. I can't. I think he's just outside of that. But I think in the grand scheme of things, like that's what makes me kind of nervous when going into the season of like, yo, can he be relied upon and can he be the guy um that really leads them to the promised land? Super Saiyan Lion saying Lewis Riddick and Dano have both said that Golf will have a bigger year this season. That's Lewis keeps saying he sees the Lions making the NFC Championship. And I agree. Like, listen, if there's a reason to be optimistic, right? I don't think like Lewis Riddick or Dan Orlovsky are pulling this optimism out of nowhere, right? They're not just like saying this for the sake of saying it. Jared Goff put together a good season of football. And so if there's a reason for you to be optimistic, it's to look at what he did and to say, like, hey, if he keeps playing this way, he can be, this is the result that the Lions can achieve. My concern will always be we've gotten to see 2 seasons of 2 different Jared Goffs. Um, and really quick, next week on Monday, I have Mike Payton, formerly of Pride of Detroit, currently at A to Z Sports, coming onto the show. So I'm going to be able to sit down and talk with Mike. But Mike did a really good article for A to Z Sports recently where he kind of compared the Jared Goff his first year in Detroit and then Jared Goff last year. And while there's on one side you can look at this and be like, hey, look how great and look how vast the improvement is from Jared Goff after his first year. And then there's another way that you could look at this and be like, hey, Jared improved, but this other version of him could still possibly exist. And in that first 2021 season, I think if you all remember, there were a lot of interceptions, there were a lot of fumbles, there was just a lot of panic under pressure. And those things in my mind can always creep back up because that's not just dependent on like how you perform, that's also dependent on how teams decide to attack you. And if teams decide to ramp up the aggressiveness and start to ramp up the pass rush, well, again, we have to sit back and see, can Jarrett actually navigate that stuff well, or was this result that we just got this past year simply from just like having a more comfortable environment to play quarterback within? Def Fan Man saying, I agree. Golf is enough because he is protected. by our $70 million O line because Monty and Gibbs are going to make Goff look fine. And we're going to be the Detroit play action passing Lions. Goff is going to ball. And I think, and I'm fine with that, right? Like, I don't want to make this seem like if Jared Goff isn't playing like Patrick Mahomes, then he's not good enough. No, at the end of the day, like win football games. That's all I need you to do is win football games. If that's from dinking and dunking, then like fine. Like as long as at the end of the season, if the Lions are holding up the Lombardi trophy, I'm not gonna care how we got there. But I also will sit here and recognize that like that style of play could also, be altered and that type of play could be blown up if defenses start to cue in on it and they start to scheme for it because they know the limitations of your quarterback. I think one of the things with that makes a Philadelphia Eagles so difficult, a team like the 49ers difficult or a team like the Chiefs difficult is that they have quarterbacks or offensive coordinators that put so much pressure on you that it's just like it's not easy to just cue in on what they're doing. And I think that becomes the concern with me with Jared Goff is that like I still think, and maybe it's because we watch him we've gotten to watch him the last few years. I do think he's relatively easy to figure out and he's relatively easy to defend and put him into bad situations. Um, it just becomes a matter of do other teams kind of know that and can Ben Johnson help him? And like that fan man is saying, right? Can a combination of Monty and Gibbs and a powerful run game keep him protected so that he doesn't have to do too much?